Hello guys, welcome back. Couple of news. As you may have noticed, I have been streaming back again a little bit here and there. So please stay tuned because, yeah, during these school holidays I'm streaming a little bit, and there are two dual commentaries coming up soon. One of them is going to be against international master Eric Rosen, and the other one is going to be... I'm not going to tell you that one yet. Because, yeah, let's leave a bit of air of mystery around this business. And today I'm going to show you a bit of an analysis of what happened today on the stream, where I played a lot of 3-minute blitz games against Farmville, who is, by the way, none other than the formerly known streamer Justicebot, as it was confirmed by several viewers during the stream. And to be fair, I got rather badly trashed in this match today, which highlighted a couple of things that I need to be very conscious of before I go into these dual commentaries. Number one is that I'm extremely slow, and number two is that I'm extremely slow. And I think the number 3, 4 and 5 will be that I'm extremely slow, and it looks like my tactical awareness has dropped a lot too. So I need to put my act together in order to perform well. Now I'm showing you a bit of a couple of highlights, if you like, from this match, and a bit of analysis of what happened and why. I kept on losing in this race Sicilian very, very badly in this knight a3 variation, where I kept on playing a6, totally forgetting that I got confused in my variations with the knight a3 line here, where a6 is actually a sound move, because after castles I have got d3, I think. After castles, bishop e6, knight a3, this story is altogether different, because if I play a6 here after bishop takes, knight takes, we are back in the main line with an extra insertion of him playing knight a3, which we can hardly call a bad move, and mine a6, which, given the current state of my king side, is not exactly the pride of the black position. Plus it actually compromises the b6 knight, when very often the bishop comes up with a tempo. So altogether I got this totally back to front and wrong, and I kept on playing this thinking that I must have forgotten my variation, my theory here. Well, I have, but not after a6, instead. Anywho, so I played this and I kept on getting trashed. This one is probably one of the nicest example of how I got beaten. Queen b3, knight d4, queen b6, and essentially the game is over here, because I have got these dudes back in here, and minus the bishop, he's fully developed. There is no way I will be able to catch up, and I realized how atrocious the situation was for me. For example, after knight c6, bishop b3 followed by rook d1. This is spectacularly falling apart. So I wanted to trade pieces, and I invited this hoping that he would take me, and then queen takes, pawn takes. Even though these are double pawns, both being on white would be difficult to target. Of course I knew he wouldn't take it, but you know, you try what you can. Very correctly played knight c4, again the best move, coming towards the center, hitting the weak squares here and here. I tried to catch up in development, and then another strike from the side, knight a5, hitting this. That hurt a lot, because now if I drop back to d6 again, he has got bishop f4 and rook d1 as in the game. And if I play rook b8, then again bishop f4, and I'm short for defending moves and pieces. Once again, please note the striking difference between my fully retarded and backward development, and between his beautifully set pieces. So this is how you should never ever play chess, the way I did in this game, and I got duly punished for it. So after knight c4, I'm losing material on the pin. I tried to be cute and sack away stuff and hang in there, but the white pieces are so active that I didn't really have a chance. Like even here I was selling some cheapies, but in the end of the day I was absolutely outclassed in this game, and actually even time wise I was looking very poorly, so I had to resign here. Probably I should have earlier. And then I kept on trying to revive this variation with rather less than more success. So a few games later I entered this variation again, Lord knows why. And so I entered this variation, which again is really a poor call, because this is again a typical example of entering a an inferior version of a main line, because in the main line the knight is back here, the pawn is back here, and in this position the queen goes to h4, and after queen e2, black is very strong. Black has got a very strong threat of rook d1. Now instead that he played knight a3, super useful, I played a6, utterly retarded. And even when he played queen c5, I'm like, yeah, that shouldn't have happened. But of course it does make sense now, because the knight on b6 is constantly an issue for black. So it doesn't have to go to the king side. He wants to stay around my weak queen side whilst he's developing his pieces with temples. So here I needed to fiddle around a little bit with my pieces in order to be able to get out. Now after queen c6, I'm finally threatening to re-enter the fray via e6 and develop my pieces, and for the first time bishop e3 is not a good move because of knight d5 forking these two. So he played rook e1, very logical move again, e6 and queen g4. And I think that this is actually inaccurate. It is in the spirit of the position, and this is what they used to do in the old main line. But here, that was one of the very few occasions where I figured out the correct plan. Very often in the main line with the knight back on b1 and the pawn back here, black plays for h5, h4, h3, and very often doesn't even end up castling here, but trying to stir the pot on the king side a bit too. And that's exactly what I got to do here. So please note that normal development with bishop e7 and castles is never possible because of the hanging pawn, and I don't have time for nonsense like g6 here, because for example after queen d4 I spectacularly fall apart again due to my non-existent development. So aggression was called for, h5, and I think that he misunderstood what was happening here, because otherwise he wouldn't have entered this variation. And please know that I always have this option of taking here, which will be very important later on, completely destroying the queenside pawn structure. But right now it doesn't work, because when I take here, he gets to take here. And yeah, this is not really that great. However, here comes the trick that I was hoping to go for, and that is rook h6. And this move, to my surprise, was fully justified by the computer as well. The idea is this sneaky mate threat down there on g6, and basically to force the queen off the g7 pawn, so that then I can enter this favorable endgame. He played here f3, which wasn't bad, but I think the most accurate move here, actually, I played h4. Iffy move, I think. Yeah, the computer wanted me to take this, and I think that's the best call, because now after queen takes rook here, if he goes check, I can drop the bishop back and I win. I went for h4 because I thought that I was threatening with h3, compromising the pawn structure. But here actually he had a very strong line. He played queen g4, which is very logical but not good. Instead knight c2 was recommended by Stockfish, and I couldn't defeat this line. I was hoping to make this move work, but what I missed was that after queen takes g7, rook g6, when he gives a check here, it attacks back there. Beautiful motif. So check, no matter where I go, he goes back there. And although I'm fully developed and I might claim that I have got a slight initiative, I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with this, and I'm not quite sure if I would have seen any of this in the game given what form I was playing in. But luckily he went back to g4, which is definitely not good, because it allowed me to go rook g6 takes and take on f3. Thereby creating the threat of the mate as well as taking the knight. He had to retreat into the queen trade, and I managed to convert this position without too many dramas, although I have to add that even here he tried to flag me and he nearly succeeded. And I'm not bringing it up as a negative like you shouldn't have, because in general I played very slowly, and so it was a right call that he would try that. But yeah, this endgame doesn't need any further commentary. I put my king in here, I pushed my pawns up, and I went on to win. But that was pretty much my only victory in this line. And once again, I would like to highlight the fact that you are aware of what you're doing, why, and how you learn your variations, because it's very easy to get confused. Knight a3, a6 here is fully legit, because once again after castles I don't play bishop e6, I play d3. But if they play castles here, then after bishop e6, which is the main line, Knight a3, we must take on c3. This is total nonsense, and I kept on playing this without realizing that I was making myself look like a complete goose because I confused my lines. And of course, after takes, knight takes, white is just way ahead. Very clearly ahead. And I lost a fair few games in this variation simply because I got this brain explosion. The other frequently occurring topic in our games were the King's Indian. And I didn't really score well enough with this either, but I wanted to show you a line and rather a motif that occurred in one of the games that was rather interesting. So until here it's theory. And here most players play knight f6, c5, rook f7, knight b5, knight g6, covering the 7th rank so that knight c7 is not possible after the take. This is theory. And we did have one game like this where I had a fantastic position. I can't quite remember how it went. Excuse me, I need to have a drink. Probably I lost that one too. And so he switched on to this rook f6 thing, which I think is fundamentally wrong in this position, but in some cases this motif does exist. The idea is to swing the rook here to support g4. So I went for the usual c5 break, and after knight f6 I played knight f2 to deny his g4 break, and after h5 we had this position quite a fair few times. I think the computer claims that the best move for white is h3, which I knew that it existed, but it didn't even cross my mind because I thought that I was so much ahead on the queen side that I could just go in for the kill with the trade and then in. He played g4, I took, knight c7, rook b8, and then in one game I played here knight e6 immediately, but I thought that it might have been a little bit early because the knight can come back to d4 and he might have had some initiative, so I thought, nah, let's not do that. I will go for tickling these pawns now a little bit. Which is not necessarily a bad concept, but I totally missed something which I'm really ashamed of. But without this horrendous blunder, I wouldn't have had the chance to play out this otherwise really cool game. He played g3, fully legit, and here I got mixed up, not so much in calculation, but in motives, because I knew that taking on a7 was almost deadly because of the b8 rook falls, but I knew that with the motif when the bishop is here and bishop takes a7 just captures the rook. So I didn't even take the effort and the thinking to recognize it that with the queen takes on a7 it just doesn't make any sense because it just moves the bishop and the queen guards the rook. Now that being said, I think this position is actually very deceiving, because now the black's in the king side initiative is completely gone, and the black pieces on the queen side and on the borderline, on the threshold of queen side king side, are very awkwardly jammed up, and this rook has no hope whatsoever to return the fray. So now the initiative has swung onto my side at the cost of material. I just simply wanted to progress this to deny all kind of funky business and to bring the bishop in. So he played b6, and I just went like, fine, I'm going to come at you, bro. And it's very clear that I just want to push these pawns up as far as I can, and the b pawn in particular is a super nasty customer. He played knight e8, trying to eliminate the knight on c7, which is a very pesky piece, and reopen the route for the rook back, but I just kept on going on and on and on. Queen c8 getting out of this motif, and b6. And by now, I was almost certain I would win this. Little did I know that my biggest blunder was just about to come. He played rook b7, against which I had planned bishop a6. And when I executed this move, I realized that after rook takes... Actually, let's just get facts straight. Rook takes a7, pawn takes, game over, white wins. And I just totally missed this. Like, there is no excuse whatsoever for not saying this. I will simply get a new queen for which he will have to sacrifice his own queen. So in the end, I'm going to be at least an exchange up. An exchange of pawn in the total winning position. And I didn't even look at that. I was already calculating in this position the consequences of rook takes, and then I didn't realize right until this position was on the board that after bishop takes c8, I'm winning against literally every single move except for rook takes c8, 7. Because after rook takes, pawn takes, bishop takes back, black has managed to very firmly blockade the pawn. The piece that blockades the pawn is sufficiently guarded, so even if I get in, I'm not really doing enough harm. And it looks like my initiative has come to a very abrupt end. Now, very luckily though, I did figure out the key to this problem, and that was, and I did see it in this position, was that after rook takes c7, quite amazingly, I need to actually take with the rook instead of the pawn, because my main target is the bishop here. I need to eliminate this piece at all costs so that my pawn can run. My pawn is worth more than a rook here, because it's a queen candidate, and because of the black pieces are so awkwardly shut away on the other side of the board, it's very likely that I will be able to promote it. This is how it got done. He can't take with the bishop because I take the knight. He can't take with the knight, I take the bishop. He has to take here, and this is where the cute bit comes. I take the bishop, and now the knight is hanging, and in fact it has no good squares to go to at all. Went to a6, the pawn went forward. Now the rook is back en route to safety, but too little too late. And the last cute move here, bishop c7. The idea, of course, by putting the bishop on prey is that the knight can never take because I'm queening, and otherwise I'm already controlling the promoting square, and on top of that I am pinching that very important pawn chain, and equally importantly I create a very nasty pin here too. But the simplest win here is to bring the rook across and pursue the issue of the pawn by pushing it forward. King f7, rook across here, check. The idea is that if the king goes dead and the knight hangs, and if he goes here, then I go in, and now there is nobody to defend this. He kept on playing on here, but again, the only reason for that was because I was very short on time, but I managed to pull off a 2-queen checkmate in the end just before my flag fell, so to speak. I had a couple of seconds left here, I think, when the mate occurred. So the reason why I showed you this was because of most players, especially on club level, tend to take retakes automatic. And although this is admittedly a retake too, this is very illogical at first sight, because why would you put your rook on prey when you can take something for free? And yet this was the correct move. Quite clever business. And by the way, when I told you that after takes I get to take the knight, in fact it's even better to take the bishop, this is a very good description of why this game was worth showing and playing, because this one pawn takes all the glory again in this variation as well. Somewhat ashamed of this last game that I'm going to show you, because I missed the one more win, but that was a bit of a theme of the whole match, why I lost so badly. I will fly through the opening because it's not really important, and it's actually not really well played, in particular by black. I mean, yeah, one should never stand like this after 11 or 13 moves, but again, I have played far worse openings than this, so who am I to criticize anybody here? Anyhow, he played here knight e5, and I'm like, yeah, that's losing on the spot, mate. Takes, and I immediately jumped in because by this stage I was very angry with myself for playing too slowly, and of course the only time I played fast is when I should have calmed the farm. Here, rook a d1, forcing the queen off this diagonal would mean, argument's sake I'm showing you this, that this is almost mated already. In fact, yeah, scratch the almost, this is mate. Like, it's not possible to stop this as a motive, and instead, me the genius, I went in right away, allowing queen f5, and as soon as I played knight f6 check, I was facepalming myself, literally, while I was checking out. Because, yeah, now this is a mess. So the best I can get out of this position now is that I gain firm control of the d8 square in this endgame scenario. This is where I wanted to take this whole thing, but I need to explain a couple of moves prior to this. So here he played c5, and I underestimated this plan a lot. I thought that my position was still strategically winning, because even though he's covering my d1 square and I'm covering his d8, I have a legitimate route to d file, whereas he doesn't, which is an illusion because he does. After c5, he gets to do that. For which reason, I should have been more alert, but I'm not quite sure if I could have done anything about it, to be honest. And I think that this wasn't necessarily a good call either, because after pawn takes, his rook is on the a file. Wow, how did I do that? And what was it even? Ah, me talented. Okay. So yeah, I think I played a little bit carelessly here. But again, if you look at the times, I'm already a minute done in 3-minute games, so I had to speed it up. Anyhow, we got to this position where I think after rook a7 followed by rook d7 I wouldn't have had any advantage to speak of. It's not like I'm worse because he actually doesn't have any penetration squares, so for the argument's sake, I don't know, I just... Actually now he does have a penetration square. But even that one can be debatable how useful it is, because I might come up here and try to be nasty. Because in the end of the day, his penetration doesn't really mean that my forces are limited in their power, whereas mine would mean it, because he constantly has to face a back rank mate. I never do. But he failed to do that. He played his bishop b3, wanting to secure the bishop here, constantly attacking this pawn. But that was a little bit too greedy from the position, because now after rook c1 I get to go here before he gets to do that. And this is a remarkably interesting position in my mind, because many would look at it and go like, yeah, opposite colored bishops, this bishop ties the rook down, surely it's a draw. In fact, I think this is absolutely hopelessly lost for black, and the reason for that is because I do have this penetration, and on top of that I should have played here h4 for the record immediately to prevent what was coming, actually right here. But again, please note my 13 seconds. So I just, basically the plan is to run the king in here, put it here, and then bring the rook up. And black is helpless against this plan. There's nothing at all he can do. So finally, I did play h4. The reason why h4 needed to be played sooner is because this g5 plan allows the black king to enter the fray. And it's easily worth more than a pawn. The reason why I paused is because I was wondering if I had a chance to mate him here. But because of this is hanging, I don't think so. So the idea is that, yeah, he wants to bring the king out and I need to shut it down, which is what I did. So now the king is stuck in that corner for the rest of the game. He played g5, I stopped that pawn because I didn't even want to allow any g5 initiative. For example, by letting them play g3 takes and then the rook comes across and so on. So I stopped that. And he immediately went for the exchange sack. Please note that many club players, he would just sit around idly, passing back and forth, while White executes his plan. And it's actually deadly. Like, if you'd imagine that you just shift your rooks back and forth here, claiming that, oh yeah, White has nothing. Oopsie. It's very easy to see that after rook in, if you don't take, then I'm going to take, and then rook in is mate. So let's say the king, no, let's say they take, and then the king drops back, and very simply rook check, take, and this ending is a very easy win for White. The reason for that is because I pinch this, come back here, I tie the king down to that, and these two just run in. Very, very easy win. So in order to prevent that, as soon as he had the opportunity, he immediately went for the exchange sack. And this is a very, very interesting point. Even though it's hopelessly lost, one should always appreciate the idea behind it and the desire to hang in there and to fight, because now at least the king is out. It's dead lost, but if you look at it now, I have got 8 seconds. So he had every right to play like this. I brought my rook in as per planned, and here, sadly I don't have a mate, although the king is completely tied down. So yeah, I ended up going for a perpetual check, which I was even fortunate to have, because otherwise he would have just flagged me. The last very cute element of this position is that black is actually in Zugzwang now. What that means is that after dropping back to d2, you realize that the king has no moves, the bishop has no moves, all the pawns are blocked, and if the rook leaves the b file, this pawn immediately drops. Beautiful motif. So rook literally anywhere, and I don't even need to do this check, but I think this is the most accurate. King back, rook across, and I'm going to take everything and win the game. So, that was the story of my match against Farmville. It doesn't show the score because we are not on... we are on an analysis board now, I believe that's the reason. I think we started it here, so I would have lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. No. I don't think that that was a score. I think I lost worse than that. I think... Hang on. Oh, no. No, that's legit. Actually, this is where we started. So I didn't lose as badly as I thought I did. It was only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. So I lost by 1 game. That's actually quite respectable given how poorly I played. But yeah, these were some of the highlights, and I thought that I would share some of them with you because I think they had some educational value. Please stay tuned in because, as I said, more stream is coming, more videos are coming on YouTube. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will be back with more soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.